Great. Welcome to the January 7th council meeting. Welcome, everybody. And as a first order of business, I will ask Council Member Mitchell Silver to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So next, we have the consent agenda, and no items have been pulled by any council member. So we are looking for a motion to
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, motion passes. Get to the next. All right. So next is the report and recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Good afternoon. Bynum Walter, Raleigh Planning and Development. I'm joined by the Chair of the Planning Commission, Blaney Miller. A reminder about holidays coming up over the next couple of months. None of these actually overlap with any of your meetings. You have one item already scheduled for public hearing at your second meeting of the month. That's the Tryon Road rezoning. That'll be in front of you the afternoon of the 21st. There's nothing scheduled in February yet. We are suggesting that you schedule a lot for February, and I'll talk a little bit more about each of these. So this item appears on your report from the Planning Commission today. This is a rezoning that would expand commercial entitlement and height. The Planning Commission is asking a 90-day extension of you based on ongoing conversation between the applicant and the neighbors. The applicant has indicated that they feel like they'll be ready to proceed with Planning Commission review during that period. They've had a couple of extensions already, but have indicated that they will be able to move along. And so the request from the Planning Commission is for a 90-day extension, which would put their new deadline in early April. And then I have some other items for public hearing. So Z424 on Lewisburg Road. This is proximate to the River Cane Wetland Park. Request to increase residential entitlement here. Planning Commission recommends approval. You just, on your consent agenda, scheduled a public hearing for February 4 for an associated development agreement that goes along with this item. So having them appear on the same agenda should be helpful to all of you. The next request, again, an increase in residential entitlement. This is a relatively small parcel on Chapel Drive. Again, Planning Commission recommending approval, suggested for a February 4 public hearing. An item up near Triangle Town Center at Town Drive and Triangle Town Boulevard. The request here, there's a lot of retail entitlement here. The request here is really to add the hotel use to the allowed uses here. Again, Planning Commission recommends approval unanimously, suggested for a February 4 date. Crabtree Village PD. This is Kitts Hill up on the south side of Crabtree Valley Mall. This PD is quite old, and there have been a number of amendments trying to get the sort of the right match of entitlement and development regulation to match up with the market. And so that's what's in front of you this time. Again, Planning Commission endorsement and a suggestion for a February 4 public hearing. This item on Vanderbilt Avenue has been withdrawn. No further action necessary on your part. The applicant has decided not to pursue the request any further. Because they have not been scheduled for public hearing by you, they can make a new request at any time. There's no waiting period between this request and their next. And then finally, Z34 on Clarendon Crescent. Again, increase in residential entitlement. This is adjacent to existing TOD overlay. One of these parcels was actually included as a owner request in the New Bern Avenue rezoning that you chose not to act on, so they're moving ahead with that. It is recommended for approval by Planning Commission. Again, a suggested public hearing date of February 4.
Thank you.
Yep. That's the last one. That's all of them.
So questions for the representatives from planning? Yep.
Can you go back to the Lewisburg Road case? Awesome, thank you. So in the staff report, so it's noted it's inconsistent with the future land use map. And in the staff report, it says it's inconsistent with the frontage guidance.
Right.
And I was curious there is a condition that relates to some frontage mimicking, but I was curious what additionally would be needed to bring it into.
Absolutely. So the urban form map here would suggest a parkway frontage, which has a deeper planting requirement than what they've offered. And the parkway frontage would also require a pedestrian oriented access point directed at the right-of-way. So they're not offering that. So they're not offering the access they're not proposing those regulations for themselves like the frontage would require, and they're also choosing a shallower planting requirement.
Okay, got it. And then a second question, there was a TIA required, and there were some recommendations listed from the TIA, but I wasn't quite understanding if, since they were required to do the TIA, are those recommendations now also required?
I think I know from talking to my friends in transportation, and I can ask them to come up if you want a little bit more detail. My understanding is that the determination about whether or not a TIA would be required at time of site plan has not been made yet, right? They would have to file some kind of request, some kind of proposal with more detail for us to be able to make a determination. And the TIA, if required, at time of site plan would be the regulating document.
Got it, okay. I have this quote from the staff report, but maybe I've misunderstood it. It says, to mitigate impacts on studied intersections, the TIA recommends the installation of a traffic signal at site access 1, but maybe I misunderstood.
So it's a recommendation. I will ask a transportation friend to come and talk more in a more detailed way with you.
I can set it up afterwards. I'm happy to set the public hearing at the date requested, so. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. For Z3424, Clearing Crescent, they're asking to be removed from the NCOD, but they're asking to be included in the TOD, but they're limiting their height. So what's the benefit of being in the TOD?
The NCOD has lot size requirements that they do not want to satisfy. The TOD would allow them, I believe, a bit more density. I know they're limiting themselves.
But they're limiting their density to 38 as well.
Yeah.
So if they're limiting their density and they're limiting their height, what's the point of the TOD? You can get back to me later.
I believe it is, the chair here is so smart. I believe it is the unit type that they have an expanded
Okay.
unit. So R4 would not allow townhouse, but the overlay would.
Okay. So why didn't they just go, well, let's talk later because I have other questions, like
Okay.
why not just do R10? Okay.
I think that would also be a great question for the applicant.
All right, thank you.
Okay, other questions? If not, do you want to take a motion in the entirety or take them one by one?
Happy to take them all together.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the public hearing dates and the extension requested by Planning Commission.
okay, thank you.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great, motion passes. And next, we have.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Special items. There's a council contingency item requested from Councilor Branch. Any conversation on this for Southeast Raleigh Promise in honor of Councilmember James West, a long-serving member of both the City Council and the County Commission here in Wake County?
I know there's a presentation, but I mean, Southeast Raleigh promised they're in the process of building out a facility, and they would like to name part of it after the late Commissioner West and Councilmember West. And so I've asked for approval of $1,000 to go towards this. It went through our new vetting process by staff. So when they called me, I asked my PA to run it through the process, and now it's before us on the agenda, waiting for approval. If there's no questions, I would just move for approval.
Second. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
So Michelle, the new process works.
Yes.
Now, I would have split that with you, Councilmember Branch, but you moved so quick, so.
All right, next we have the report and recommendations of the city manager.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So excited to see everybody's smiling faces, and welcome back and happy 2025. While I have no formal report today, there are a couple notes of interest I would like to make you all aware of. As you all know, we are planning for our annual City Council planning retreat, and that will be January 24th and 25th. Locations are being finalized as we speak. I think the working group had a meeting today, so we will have all those final details to report at the next meeting, but we are getting geared up and excited to do the work for the city in 2025. Secondly, you're going to get a bunch of emails from us about upcoming events, one being the Martin Luther King breakfast that happens on MLK Day each year. And so those of you all who are interested in going, please let your policy analysts know so that we can know whether or not we need to reserve a table to be able to seat everybody together. Also, Intercity Trip is coming up. It'll be here before you know it. So again, please let your policy analysts know if you plan to attend that so that we can start making those arrangements and get in on the early bird registration moving forward. And last but definitely not least, I'd like to introduce the newest member of the City of Raleigh team, and that is our new Director of Equity Inclusion. I don't see him. Where is he? There he is. So I would like to introduce to you Nestor Veloz Pasalacqua. And so if I messed your name up, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get it right. But he comes to us from the great state of California by way of Peru, which is where he was born. He has been really active in this work for over a decade and has a different perspective and insight and a strategic vision for where we'd like to take our Department of Equity and Inclusion. So he joined right before Christmas. We tried to encourage him to come after. He wouldn't have it. He relocated from California to Raleigh like overnight, attended the management team Christmas party, and has hit the ground running, and the team is so excited to have him. So I will introduce to you Nestor.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and esteemed council members. My name is Nestor Veloz Pasalacqua, pronouns he, him, ML, and I am really excited to be here at the City of Raleigh, working with all of you, following your guidance and direction. I have the opportunity to meet with department heads as well as with my staff, and I am thrilled to be here to continue the work that the city has already built a strong foundation and to continue to do the work for the entire community. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Welcome.
So welcome. And so that concludes my report today. Thank
right.
you.
Is it possible for us to get the tentative hours of the retreat so we can adjust our schedules?
Hopefully by Friday, we'll be able to share more of dates, locations, times.
Okay.
But just prepare for 2 full days, Friday and Saturday. We have enough topics really for a week.
Okay.
So we're trying to prioritize and scale back and kind of plug and play in our proposed work session agenda that you're going to get later this week as well.
Okay, so it will be a full day Friday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, as opposed to a half day. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the report and recommendation of the Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board. And we have Chris Nickfar.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Chris Nickfar with Raleigh Parks, the project manager for the Walnut Creek Trail Improvement Project, and I'm joined today by our design consultant, Graham Bruns, with McAdams to present on the schematic design for the project.
right, good afternoon. My name is Graham Bruns with McAdams. Thank you, Chris. So quickly, what we're going over today is the Walnut Creek Greenway Trail Improvement Project. This is a renovation project of the existing Walnut Creek Trail between Sunnybrook and Lake Wheeler. This is the project area. Downtown is to the top there. The red is the outline of what was scoped to be considered as part of the improvements. And I'll note that it does extend a little bit up Rocky Branch there to Lake Wheeler. The goals for this project are to increase the accessibility, bring the project up to the standards of the rest of the system, resolve some drainage issues, and look at several maintenance and structural issues along this section. A couple things that I did want to note is the guardrail there at Little John Road and what can be considered the boardwalk on Rose Lane, or right next to Rose Lane. These were two pieces that were really important to be fixed as part of this project. And I did want to highlight that we went into the project knowing this, and we heard that very loud and clear from the public. This is a couple examples of, again, structures. That's a rail underpass where the trail dumps out onto Waterworks Street where there's no obvious connections. The boardwalks along this section are slippery and substandard. And we kicked off the project in May, based the design and alternatives on a GIS model while our surveyors were out doing field work. We did produce several alternatives and brought those to the public in a 15% design in September. We had back-to-back public meetings, open houses, to present the alternatives and to ask the question to the public, what else is important? Let's make sure we've got everything. We took all that information, digested it along with our field information from our surveyors, completed a 30% design and brought that back out to the public in October. And again, that's to reiterate what we heard from the public, and also while we started looking at budget constraints with the survey, kind of whittling down the alternatives to what was now a preferred design for the project. We have presented to the Greenway Committee, BPAC, and Parks Board as well. So key takeaways from the public engagement. Obviously, Rose Lane and the realignment there to make that a passable section of trail. The guardrail at Little John there, ADA accessible routes up to major roadways, improving resiliency during stormwater events, and again, bringing this section of the trail up to the rest of the city's standards for greenways. So our recommendations, the top priorities, again, Rose Lane, Little John, that whole segment right there, we want to really make sure that that is addressed once and for all so that it is not the issue that everyone notices right off the bat. And again, the accessibilities for all these other connections are the other major thing that we want to address. Structural needs, the two rail underpasses, feel like you're going into the prison yard when you go underneath us. We're going to try to make those better, improve the feel, and make them a little bit wider as well. And then several of the structures and resurfacing as we can, and then adding resiliency where else for stormwater, during stormwater events, raising the trail, doing resurfacing as we can. One note, the Rocky Branch Trail segment, we did have to cut out of this project. We are evaluating a couple things on that segment specifically for future projects, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. Quickly, just a high level of the project as we kind of go east to west. So on the east side here, Sunnybrook, Little John and Rose Lane is right there in the middle. So that's the realignment that we're going to be looking at. Particularly, we did hear from the public and from the Greenway and Parks Board shade along this section that the sewer project just completed is needed. So we're going to look at trees, accessibility up to Rock Quarry, bridge resurfacing. So this is structure 91 right there, just past Rock Quarry Road. We're going to look at completely replacing that structure. Connecting to the State Street cycle track and coordinating the two projects that the city is working on right there at the Wetland Center and creating an alternative around the Wetland Center for accessibility during storm events. That is a section that does flood a lot. There's going to be a graded Gardner Road crossing. Our first rail underpass, which the leader is now pointing to the correct location. It's a little bit further to the right there. That's the first one right just east of Hammond Road. And then this whole area around South Wilmington and Waterworks Street. Currently, to go along Walnut Creek, you have to go up Rocky Branch, go up an unpaved section to Fayetteville Street, and come back down through Eliza Pool Park, and then find your way back. So we're going to kind of make that a much more intuitive connection with a cycle track option along Waterworks Street and down Fayetteville, crossing at Wilmington Street, so that it's pretty intuitive if you're trying to stay on Walnut Creek. We are coordinating with the BRT project that is happening along South Wilmington. And then finally, this is the section that ends at Lake Wheeler. There's our second rail underpass. Again, trying to improve those underpasses. The section of Rocky Branch does extend up to Lake Wheeler that we did look at. We are evaluating, again, that's the connection right there with that boardwalk that connects up to Fayetteville Street. That currently is how you have to connect to stay on Walnut Creek. So we are going to look at improving that connection, but budget constraints did make us remove the rest of the Rocky Branch section. So this is high-level cost estimates. This is not the actual cost estimate. These are kind of big buckets. And if you add this up, it won't total what has been provided to staff, but we did want to show kind of where the dollars we wanted to spend were going. So Rose Lane and Little John Street, that's the top priority there. Boardwalk replacement with concrete, so that's that section right next to Rock Quarry Road. Accessibilities, connections, structure 124, so that's the section there off of Waterworks Street that's in one of the highest repaired structures in the system. And then that Rocky Branch, just to give an idea of why that got cut. And then this is, I guess, just to reiterate, we are looking to do a cost estimate for this connection for future funding opportunities. So it's not going away. We will cost it out, but it won't be part of this construction project. Our next steps after today, going into 60% design. So that's going to be the spring and summer, rolling into permitting and final design later this year. And if everything goes well, we'll be going to bidding and construction 2026. Our recommendation today is that council will approve the schematic 30% design for the Walnut Creek improvement project. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Questions for the gentleman?
Yeah, thank you so much. I am really excited about this project. Regularly attempt to bike this and at times have been thwarted. So looking forward to all of the connections being made here. One question I have is we have had some public safety concerns around the Greenway, especially between Lake Wheeler Road and South Saunders, kind of in and around South Saunders. So are there any plans for lighting or other ways to just have a little bit more visibility for folks that are on the trail?
Yeah, so the safety is not part of the scope of what we're doing. Ours is more of a rehabilitation of the geometry of the trail. The city has done a safety plan. I'll let Chris
So
talk about that.
we did complete a Greenway safety report in 2022 that we can provide you a copy of, and that's really just a list of all of the things that we have done in the past and continue to do to try to address personal safety issues on the system.
And can you tell me about any plans for safety considerations in this area that you know are ongoing or to be implemented?
Not associated with this project.
All right. Yeah, I guess if I could get a copy of that report and I'll check it out. I don't know what the rules are that we have on lighting, but it just seems like in a few places here that could be helpful.
We can bring you back a staff report to kind of give you an update on some of the projected and plans for our system.
That'd be great.
Hopefully, we can probably get it to you by Friday.
Yeah, thank you. And when ready, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve. Thank you for your work on this.
Question?
Well, thank you both for the consultants and staff. As a runner, I've noticed the difference on Walnut Creek, so I am gratified that the standard will be up to par with other parts of the city. Those tunnels, there's no question, is a scary place, so you just either run or bike faster. So anything you can do to make those feel safer, I think, will be a benefit. But I'm very excited about this project and to see, at least at this stage of schematic design, seeing the Walnut Creek being elevated to similar greenways throughout the system. So very pleased to see this.
Right, we'll make a motion.
Yeah, move forward to approve the schematic design for the Walnut Creek Trail Improvement Project.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, aye.
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 All opposed? Great, motion passes. Thank you so much. And next, we have the Neuse River Park Master Plan, and we have TJ.
Good afternoon, everybody, Mayor, Council. I'm TJ McCourt with Raleigh Parks, here to present on the Neuse River Park Master Plan. I'd like to start with a few brief acknowledgements. We've had so many members of our community contribute to this planning effort. It was one of the most engaged and passionate community advisory groups I've worked with in my decade with the city. We have so many people who are very passionate about what this park could become for the city and passionate about protecting what we already have out at this site today. I believe we have some of those community members in the audience today and certainly more watching at home. I also want to acknowledge our project manager, Emma Lyles. She couldn't be here today, but she has been the heart and soul of this project over the past year. I want to give her a shout out to her mother, who I know is watching at home and makes the best carrot cake any of us have ever had. Ultimately, I think the master plan that we arrived at here represents a true compromise in the best sense of the word and strikes a balance between nature preservation and improving access to one of Raleigh's most stunning natural features in the Neuse River. Today, I'll give a brief introduction of the project and then hand it over to Emily McCoy with Design Workshop, who are our design consultants, to take us through the master plan and discuss next steps from there. In terms of budget and the schedule that we have set out for ourselves, this project was funded through the 2022 Parks Bond. The bond allocated $11.5 million. At the time that the bond was passed, it was acknowledged that the city was going to go out and pursue grant funding, potential philanthropy, donations, other sources of supplemental funding to contribute in addition to the bond funds. We are on schedule, as laid out through the Parks Bond, wrapping up the master planning process now. With your approval, we would move into design and permitting, which would take us into construction in 2027. Some brief context, in case anybody is not familiar. Neuse River Park is located at the headwaters of the Neuse River, just below Falls Dam, here in northeast Raleigh. As I mentioned, community engagement for this project has been incredibly robust. We had thousands of people participate in our online surveys. Hundreds come out to our public workshops, talk to us at intercept surveys along greenway trails, at other community events. This has been a year-long process. We've had a lot of very detailed discussions with a lot of people around the city. Ultimately, as I've said, I think it's been a good success and a good process to work through. To take us through exactly how we collected all of that feedback and synthesized it into a design for the park, I'll turn things over now to Emily McCoy. Thank you.
Thank you, TJ. As TJ noted, we feel that this master plan is a balance between nature-based experiences and river access and recreation. This process started building off the city's situation assessment that kicked off this project that then led us to a site inventory and analysis process, which was very rigorous, analyzing the river itself, the floodplain, the power easements, the sewer line, all of the opportunities and challenges on the site, and also included a BioBlitz with Wake Nature to assess all the plant communities and habitats on the parcel. The project area consists of two major parcels, the U.S. Army Corps lease parcel, which is about 8 acres to the north, and 80 acres of city-owned property that are here called the north parcel and the south parcel. I'm just going to walk you through some of the amenities that are proposed in the master plan, starting at the north end of the parcel where the arrival parcel, plaza, and parking is located, including restrooms, play areas, a bicycle pump track, and Neuse River access amenities. These are just some images of those areas. Here's the play space. Then going to the south end of the parcel, we have pollinator meadows, hiking trails, additional river access and overlooks, a stream restoration, and low-impact hiking trails to the south and access to the river as well. More imagery of those experiences on the south end of the parcel with the greenway and overlooking the river. On the Army Corps parcel, we have a Southern Channel River access and bank reinforcement, drop features known also as play waves to increase the velocity of the water for river-based recreation, a river overlook and river access, and then existing boat launch improvements. Again, more imagery of the overlook and the river and the amenities and the experiences you can imagine on the river themselves. And now I'm going to turn it over to TJ to walk us through the opinion of cost and the prioritization of those master plan elements.
As you can see here, based on the master plan concepts, the cost estimates that were generated brought us in at about $15 million in total costs. That does include healthy escalation and contingency budget to account for a lot of the unknowns. This is going to be a unique project working in the Neuse River, so we wanted to make sure we were being very conservative in our cost estimates. That said, since that does exceed the $11.5 million that we had allocated through the Parks bond, we did go into a prioritization exercise with the Community Advisory Group and with our Parks Advisory Board to make sure that we understood if we weren't going to be able to implement the entire vision for the full master plan in a single phase, that we had a prioritization scheme that we would follow. Those elements listed on the left side of the screen represent the baseline park improvements that are going to get done no matter what happens beyond them. So these are our core facilities, right? Restrooms, parkings, that arrival plaza. The elements that we prioritized on the right side of the screen represent some of the enhanced features. So the construction for that river access for those improvements to the southern channel. The additional features like the pump track, the youth-focused nature play area, some other enhancements throughout the site that Emily walked through. While we were working with the Community Advisory Group, it's always our goal to achieve a unanimous consensus on how to proceed with a plan like this. While the Community Advisory Group did reach consensus on the master plan as a whole, when it came to how to prioritize the elements, we weren't able to get a unanimous consensus there. There was some disagreement over, again, the prioritization, and in our policy, a single community advisory member can block that vote and hold up the consensus process. In that case, what we do is we go to our Parks Advisory Board. The board takes into account feedback from the Community Advisory Group as well as holistically feedback that we received through the community throughout this entire engagement process. And ultimately, the Parks Board determined the prioritization list that made it into the master plan that you see before you today. The next steps following approval of the master plan would have us bring back to you a consultant contract award that would help us begin on schematic design and construction administration in the next few months. We are all set and ready to go with that. And that would have us beginning that SD process and importantly engaging with the U.S. Army Corps on the environmental assessment process that would all begin this year. I'll also mention that it's during that schematic design phase we would be able to come back to you with more refined cost estimates. Do want to emphasize those estimates we did at this level are based on the master plan concept. And so we expect those figures to be significantly refined in the next phase of design. So,
Just
yes,
one
sir.
quick question. Can you go back to the slide? So I understand we all support and embrace community engagement. When it starts going into schematic design, what is the nature of engagement since it went through a master plan? Is it to look specifically at the design details and not change around the program since you're basing the design So just clarify the community engagement, like what is in scope for that engagement effort?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. The program for the park will not change. What you see in the master plan today is what we are going to build to. Nothing is going to be eliminated or added that would significantly change the community's vision for the park. So those elements will all remain the same. As we go through schematic design, you're exactly right. We go into greater design detail, get those more refined cost estimates. We continue working with our community advisory group. We'll have public workshops, public meetings, as well as meetings through our Parks Advisory Board, where we get into all of the details and keep everybody up to speed on, any evolving decisions from there. And so the recommendation before you is to approve the master plan for Neuse River Park as recommended by the Raleigh Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board. Of course, I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you so much. And do we have questions? And I see Councilmember Patton.
Well, I'm gonna have a bunch, but I see Councilmember Jones on your other side.
Okay.
She wants to go first.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I just have two quick questions. I'm really glad about the engagement that you guys have garnered in this process and excited about that. Is there somewhere we can review that the public can see it, so we can see how many of the thousands, who was in favor and all that? That's not incorporated here, but where can we find that information?
So that's available on the city's website. There'll be links to the full master plan document with a very healthy appendices that goes into great detail on all of our engagement. They'll also have links to our actual engagement webpage on engageraleighnc.gov. And again, you'll be able to see results of our online surveys, everything like that there.
Awesome, thank you for that. And then my second question, as we're looking at this, 15 million, I think total was the package. In there, where do we include the ongoing maintenance costs of a project? So this is to get it up and running, but as we're seeing with other things in parks and in every department, if we're not able to maintain it, then that's going to be a really big expense later. So do you guys have an idea of what that would be yearly or whatnot moving forward after this is complete?
We do. I do not have those numbers in front of me. We'd be happy to follow up with that. This does represent the capital costs, not the operating costs that would be associated with it. Those were accounted for in the total bond budgeting process. But yes, these numbers here are specifically for design and capital construction.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. I've got a bunch. Hi, DJ. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
First, I am just, my hat's off to Emma Lyles, Public Servant of the Year in my book. She has very beautifully navigated the spectrum of opinions on this park over the last 2 years. One thing I really want to highlight is the care that was given to the composition of the CAG. I know there was a lot of community concern at the time that with this being called a regional park, the neighbors who use this as a neighborhood park, their voice might not be considered, and there was a lot of intentionality around how the CAG was designed so that the neighbors in the immediate vicinity got to see their neighborhood vision realized while also having some regional park vision realized as well. So that was really nicely done, and the core features that are in the budget, no matter what, are the ones that are most responsive to what I heard at the beginning of this process. So glad to see those are all represented in the core budget. Just to sort of put a really fine point on it, just have you reiterate, this is not going to mimic the National Whitewater Center in Charlotte, right?
Not by a long shot. So the original conception for a park development in this area dates back to the 70s when Falls Dam was constructed. There was a lot of energy around getting a whitewater park here in the Neuse River. It's called Falls Dam, right? Because there used to be a natural waterfall there. That's where the topography changes. You've got the changes in elevation. It creates those natural rapids, which are out there in the Southern Channel today. What we're doing here is much more akin to a stream restoration, stream bank stabilization process. There's going to be a little bit of construction that happens in the river channel itself to help enhance those natural wave features that are out there today. But this is not going to be the type of whitewater rafting you see on the Colorado River or at the Charlotte Whitewater Center. Nobody's going to be, in that situation. This is a much more casual park, much more of a universal design concept. More often than not, the people that are going to be out there are going to be floating in inner tubes or little kids splashing around, kind of wading in the water. It's only going to be really a few dozen days a year that the water levels are going to be high enough to get those, those extreme sports enthusiasts out there.
Got it. Excellent. Good to hear. And if there were any major changes made to the plan, what would happen just to for the community's peace of mind? Like if any major changes were to be proposed, what would happen from there?
So those would be proposed during that next phase of design that we're moving into, which would be schematic design. And again, there would be public workshops around that. We would go through our community advisory group again. There would be opportunities to see all of that at our Parks Advisory Board and ultimately here at Council as well.
Excellent. And then a question around safety. Certainly, people are already doing the things you described in the river right now. If we went out there, we'd see like goat paths down these trails. And the stream bank stabilization is necessary because the river, the sedimentation is only washing away. It's not being replaced because of how the dam is. You taught me that at the beginning of the process. Where was I going with this? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So stream bank stabilization is necessary. There are already people accessing the river, but we also have had fatalities in the Neuse, at other parts of the Neuse in the past year. So what thoughts are being given around safety?
Yes, we're working closely with Raleigh's Police Department, with the Army Corps of Engineers. Designs like this actually provide a great opportunity for swift water rescue training. So there's a lot of benefits that can come from this. Again, a lot of those operations level decisions are things that we will figure out over the coming years as we refine the design, as we begin that kind of operational level planning process. But yes, we are extremely cognizant of the need to make sure that this is a safe environment for everybody who wants to use the river. It's accessible for more people, and we want to make sure that as people are going out there and having a good time, they're able to come back again and again and again.
A couple of thoughts I have on that, and I think they're probably on your mind too for this ongoing work. There's a lot of non-English speakers who use the river here, so if we could make sure the signage is multilingual, if there's to be signage, let's make sure it's multilingual.
Absolutely.
And then I've sort of learned that in other watering hole type style parks of this nature, it's a common feature to have a certain rock that's painted with really clear and easily understandable markings like green, yellow, red to indicate the water level and
safety at different
complexity.
flows.
Yes,
That's a great idea, yes.
And it's really easy to understand. People don't have to scan a QR code and read a chart or anything. It's just very clear. So something to consider as you continue. And then I have shared throughout different milestones of this plan, shared this with the Upper Neuse River Keepers and Partners for Environmental Justice. They're all satisfied, but they have provided some feedback on what they'd like to be taken into consideration during construction, having to do with dredging and how much sedimentation is moved around and at which time. So I've provided that to Stephen, and I hope you all will take it into consideration as you proceed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
With all that said, really excellent work to you and your team, and hats off to Emma, and I'm happy to make the motion to approve this plan.
Okay.
Second.
And I'll just add that this has been going on since I was on council 20 years ago, and then you said it was from the 70s, so
Right.
it's 50 years of effort, and just, yes, thank you for all the work that's gone into this. Okay, any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have report and recommendation of the Raleigh Historic Development Commission.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm Tanya Tully with Planning and Development. I'm going to introduce Rob Allen, Vice Chair of the Raleigh Historic Development Commission, which will speak on the loan request, and then when he's done, I've got a little follow-up information.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. Good afternoon. Let me see if I can get this a little higher. Rob Allen, Vice Chair with the Raleigh Historic Development Commission. Appreciate you having me here this afternoon to talk about the city's preservation revolving loan fund on behalf of 1514 Delmont Drive, also known as the Bill and Betty Weber House. Today's agenda included a description of the request as well as 3 attachments. There was a memo describing the preservation, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. I don't think I'm alone in that in this room. Staff memo describing the preservation revolving loan fund, a loan request packet describing the project in greater detail. It's pretty extensive. A staff memo with a budget amendment. And the following slides have additional details about the request, as well as the work in progress completed by the property owners, Melinda and Andy Knoll, who are here today. So thank you for being here. So first off, the purpose of the fund is to provide financial support for historic preservation projects. The City Preservation Revolving Loan Fund was established by City Council in response to recommendations of the historic preservation element in 1989 in the comprehensive plan. The $275,000 fund is designed to work as a revolving fund where monies are lent to bridge preservation efforts, and then they're paid back at the conclusion of the term. Most terms are 2 to 3 years with full repayment at the end of the term. Since the creation of the fund, it's been used half a dozen times, and there are no outstanding payments to the city. So it's all been recouped through prior funding. For this request, the Knowleses have asked for $215,000 in a 3-year term. The funds would be used to complete the reconstruction and rehabilitation in order to obtain a certificate of occupancy for the relocated home. And this final bullet point here shows that the Weber House is significant for its modernist design, as it was a collaboration between architects Bill Weber and George Matsumoto, who some of you may be familiar with. The house was built in 1954 for the Webers' use as their private residence. It was featured in Architectural Record that same year. It's an architectural magazine, still in print today. The key features of the home are the defining clear geometry, straight lines, expansive openings, open floor plans, careful site planning, and building integration of systems that characterize George Matsumoto's architectural style. While it was at 606 Transylvania Avenue, the house was designated as a Raleigh Historic Landmark in 2009. However, that designation was removed in 2014 at the owner's request. In 2023, the home sold, and the Knowleses became aware of that, worked with the new owners and other entities to help save the home from demolition. In January 2024, the Knowles moved the home from 606 Transylvania Avenue to 1514 Delmont Drive, which is about 7 miles across Raleigh. Due to the logistics of moving the house such a long distance and the shape of the house and some of the logistics with the feasibility with construction, a portion of the house was moved and another portion was deconstructed. Here you see photos of the original siding of the house on the upper right of the house on its original location on Transylvania Avenue, and then below it, the relocated positioning on Delmont Drive. At our RHDC business meeting in December 2024, we spoke at length about the architectural significance of the relocated house and the careful work undertaken during relocation and reconstruction so far. We asked our commission members whether the location possesses the integrity of design, setting, workmanship, materials, feeling, and association, and voted unanimously in the affirmative that it does maintain those historic features. The new neighborhood shares many similar characteristics from the original siding, some modernist-styled homes, large wooded lots, the orientation facing the street, and the ability of this site to accommodate the tuck-under parking on the left side of the house, which you see here is, we believe, very successfully accommodating the original design intent. Other features like the glass remained in the same geometry, and the iconic red chimney flues have been retained. So our recommendation is or our role in the process is to review the request and documentation for the use of the loan funds and make a recommendation to you, City Council and the Mayor. Specifically, our HDC is to determine if the relocated and reconstructed Weber House has the requisite historic and architectural significance to justify use of the city's funding, and we believe it does. Since it is not currently a Raleigh historic landmark, this is also a determination of whether or not the relocated house has a special character and architectural significance to be designated as a local landmark. Again, we believe that it does. Our HDC has determined that the Bill and Betty Weber House at 1514 Delmont Drive has a requisite historic and architectural significance to be a Raleigh historic landmark, and that upon relocation, the house does retain the historic and architectural significance to justify the city's funds. So we ask that City Council approve or authorize the use of the Preservation Loan Fund for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the Weber House. The request is to authorize staff to process and prepare all necessary loan documents in the amount of $215,000 from the Preservation Loan Fund for the purpose of preservation of the Bill and Betty Weber House at 1514 Delmont Drive, and to also authorize a budget transfer. The suggested loan terms are 3 years with full interest-free with full repayment at the conclusion of the loan term, and the loan will be secured with a deed of trust on the lot and require that a preservation covenant be placed on the property. An application for the historic landmark designation will be filed prior to execution of the loan, and the work to be performed will be in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. Planning and development staff, with guidance from the city attorney's office, have also determined that the requesting party has the financial ability to make the payments back on the loan. So the next steps would be authorization to process and prepare loan documents in the amount of $215,000, and also authorize the budget amendment. And we appreciate your continued support, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Do we have questions? Yep.
Questions are really more towards staff. I think that I'm comfortable with this project and moving forward. My question is, based on the funding and me doing my math, $60,000 is left.
Correct.
So do we have the ability to assist any other project that may come forward?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, how often do we kind of see these requests and the amounts?
It's fairly rare. I think the last one was back in like 2019, 2020 was the last loan. Since 1990s, there have just been 6 of them. We do offer it and mention it whenever projects come up, and we just don't always have takers on it. One of the things that we are working towards is making that the availability of the funds be, share more about that.
Okay. That's helpful to hear, because often I've heard from the board that, hey, we have funds to help people, we have loans available, but yet residents or those that have properties or those who may come before us for whatever reasons keep saying, well, we can't access it or we're not aware of it. So I think whatever education can be out across the entire city, not just our historic communities, because someone may have a property in a historic area but not live there. They may be renting it out. So I think whatever we can do citywide to make sure residents are aware of this, the better we are.
Agreed.
And if I may chime in, I echo your sentiments, because I know there are a couple of projects that were presented, but they weren't approved for access to the funding. So having an opportunity to make sure there's diversity and opportunity and participation in this loan fund would be something that I'd like to see.
Yep.
Is the 3-year repayment cycle part of the program? Because I could imagine, depending on the amount, that could be a barrier for some of those making a loan. Is that the maximum, or that's just what is recommended?
That is the maximum it has been thus far. I think The idea behind the loan is for at least initially when it was put into place, would be to provide loans so that people can work on the projects prior to getting a regular mortgage or bank loan. But it's not a requirement. We would look at it on a case-by-case basis. It depends on how much funding is left and all of that. So potentially it could be longer. And of course, the more money we have, the more loans we can give.
The longer it is, the longer it takes to be paid.
Exactly.
To make the full amount available to other property owners.
Correct.
Any questions, or is there a motion? Yep.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Counselor Fort, to your point, are you saying that others have been denied this same fund? And if that's so, I'd be interested in learning how many have been denied participation in this
a
fund.
couple cycles ago, but there were a couple projects that were presented, and they came before the district and, the commission. And for some reason, there were some criteria issues, and I cannot remember, this was like 3 years ago. But happy to go back and do the research on that and get it to you and also send it to you. But I think we had some conversations a few years ago about a couple of projects where they were trying to move some houses off of some properties, and for some reason they didn't qualify for the loan proceeds.
Okay, I'd be happy to get the additional information and research that.
Definitely. And then I did want to say, I know at the last meeting I was late, so I apologize for not being able to see it, but the backup information was really thorough, so I really appreciate you guys including that. So I just wanted to give you a heads. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Lambert Melton.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to approve. I'd also just like to add, I think historic preservation is really important. I'm glad that this house isn't going to be torn down. And I do agree that if we can make this program more widely accessible or known, that could be helpful too. But I'm glad that it's going to be appropriately used here. So I'd love to see some pictures when it's done, if they want to do that. So
I am sure they will. The property owners who are here today, they had a videographer at our meeting, so I think they're doing a whole documentary on it. So there will be more to tell.
all right, well, I move to approve.
Okay. Great. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Next, we do not have report outs from our different committees because they have not met over the last few weeks. But we do have a report from the mayor and city council next, and maybe we'll start down at this end with Mayor Pro Tem Fort, if you're ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I am ready. I have a motion. I think I've talked to everybody, maybe except for you and the mayor. I think I missed you too. But it's and I realized that when I sat down at the table. But last month I was approached by Pamela Morgan, who is the mother of Conan Morgan. And she's looking for assistance in honoring her late son. And by supporting her efforts, she wants to dedicate an NCDOT interchange in his honor. Conan unfortunately passed away in a boating accident in 2023. He was a pillar in the community and a rising star in North Carolina politics as well. I'm requesting that our staff work with Ms. Morgan and the NCDOT staff and our city attorney to draft a resolution that describes the many accomplishments of Conan Morgan for our next meeting on January 21st. This resolution and the minutes from the meeting where it would be approved are needed as a part of the NCDOT renaming request process, and look forward to your support as we honor Conan. So that would be my motion.
Right. Any other conversation? If not, all in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you.
That's it for me.
I have one thing. I don't want to steal Councilmember Harrison's thunder, though. I did talk to Councilmember Patton about this. I have been contacted by many folks, and I've personally gone out there and seen this. We are having some significant issues with pedestrian safety and access around the Ironworks District, Whitaker Mill right there. I believe it may have been included in a manager's update of like the top most dangerous intersections in the city. When I talked to Councilmember Patton to give her a heads up that I was going to ask that we send this to committee, she let me know that Councilmember Harrison may be making a more largely encompassing ask. So my ask is going to be if we could please have this specific intersection sent to Transportation and Transit. I want to get some data on what's happening over there and see what we can do on a short-term and long-term basis to make some improvements. I understand there's going to be some funding considerations. I will also yield the rest of my time to Councilmember Harrison if you just want to go ahead and make your request too.
Yeah, I can just speak to that. We did have a manager's update about top 20 intersections in the city for crash rates. It was top 10 with vehicular crashes, then top 10 with pedestrian and bicycle crashes. And so I'm not sure if that intersection made the list, but I would say let's add that to the list. There was also one on Chapanoke that was added because of concerns. I've spoken both with ACM Michael Moore and Transportation Director Paul Callum about having this as a discussion. They thought they would be ready for the end of February to have this discussion in the Transportation Committee. If that's amenable to you, Councilmember Patton.
Yeah, I'm happy to receive the topic of the top 10 vehicular crashes, top 10 pedestrian and cyclist crashes, and also Wake Forest and Whitaker Mill into Transportation Committee in February.
Yeah, and what I'll add to that is we're looking for some understanding of which intersections still have improvements to be made, whether the funding is in place for those improvements, and then are there additional monies needed to, again, improve these intersections. So I am prepared to request a budget note for any additional funds that are needed, but I know we do have a lot of projects in the hopper, so already funded for many of these intersections. So I think it'll be important to go through each one of them, see where we are, and see if there's opportunities to go even further.
Yeah, and I would just add on the Whitaker and Atlantic issue, we've seen a lot of growth and development in that area, which is great. It was previously an industrial site, which is obviously designed to be fairly hostile to pedestrians and bicycle users and anyone who's not in a car. And what we're seeing now, and I went over there over the holiday break, I scootered there. There's some guardrails in place. People are hopping over them. I think there was already one like broken arm or leg. There's no crosswalks at all. There's no pedestrian lead intervals. There's no sidewalks. And so now we have an area where a lot of people are living. They've built apartments. There's restaurants and shops. People are trying to get from one entertainment area to the other. And I think folks are even walking over from 5 Points, and there's not anything really there. And so I definitely want to highlight that when we add it to this list about what we can do in the short term and long term. Because I do think something significant may happen there, and I would hate to see that happen. So just wanted to elevate that for Transportation and Transit.
Madam Mayor, real briefly, not to keep driving this down the road, I do want to highlight that I know staff has been looking at this area. There's a lot of work that has to be done with the NCDOT as far as the bridge and figuring out how to get pedestrians across. This is an issue that's in my district, and I've been in conversation with our assistant city manager and our director for the last couple of months, if not almost a year, just based on the new development that's happening. So they are fully aware of the issue, and I'm sure there's a lot of information they can bring forward as far as the Ironworks connectivity, because there's also parts in their rezoning that the developers required to do in order to help connect to whatever improvements that we make. So if staff just pull all of that, we look forward to it in February.
Is that the end of your
That's all I had for today. Happy New Year, everyone.
Awesome. Just a few on my end, in keeping with tradition, highlighting some good stuff we did through the consent agenda. We authorized funding for affordable housing at the South Creek development, which will have some units for as low as $688 a month. And we also changed the name of Chester Road to Pettiford Road, which clears up like wayfinding confusion, but also honors a free Black man who's significant to the Oberlin community history. Moving on, my next office hours are January 16th from 6 to 8, and the location is to be determined, so check social media, folks. And then I wanted to ask my colleagues if I could please have permission to use some of the council travel budget to attend a conference for the Strong Cities. Strong Cities is a conference host, and they'll be covering airfare and lodging, so the cost to the council travel budget and, to the taxpayers is just for ground transportation and some food.
Motion to cover those costs.
Second. So all in favor of covering the cost?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Being new to this, I want to make sure I understand the tone of these updates, but I, too, want to thank you for approving the consent agenda. I did have one item. I would just like some further conversation. The New Bern BRT is very important to the city, recognizing that there was another unsuccessful bid, and just want to understand going forward how the city is going to proceed, whether it's being broken up. Will council see that before it's finalized? I think it's just very important that we understand how that is going to move forward, recognizing some of the budget realities and the bid that came in that was quite high. So I know this is going to be a third time, so just wanted some clarification about that before it's brought to us as something final. Just like to know what the strategy or thinking is from staff.
Absolutely. Yep, and I think that will be hopefully on a work plan coming up in just the next few weeks. So I want to say, yep, Happy New Year to everybody. And I want to compliment the Artsplosion and all the folks that worked on First Night Raleigh. We had, I don't know what the total number was, but there were, 20,000, 25,000 people there. And of course, beyond Artsplosion, Michael Lauder, who came back in, we had Shelley Godwin and Nick Neptune were co-hosting, and WRAL. So lots of people that made it a very successful evening, but just appreciate that celebration here, and seeing all the shops and restaurants full downtown was great. Also want to give a shout out to, I have Mayor Bloomberg, of course, is one of the few people in the United States that really thinks about cities and has Bloomberg Philanthropies, and they have kindly hosted a program at the JFK School of Government, and we have 2 interns who are right here smiling. So Naveed Gadarzi and Hannah San Sebastian are here for just 2 weeks, lending us their kind of thinking and doing work on the ground. So please welcome them, as they're part of a team of 40 that are working across the United States in both cities, and there's a team working with Governor Stein at the state level. So we're just happy to have you guys here. And then finally, and this is also something Councilor Harrison and I have talked about, is Raleigh is a member of Biophilic Cities. And I know Councilor Harrison's been working a lot on trees, tree protection, as everybody here is concerned, but it would be great to get an update from staff at some future meeting or work session from Brian Smith, I think, who's the point person with Biophilic, just to talk about what we're doing around, the abundance of nature, trees in Raleigh, what's been accomplished, what are the next goals. So just want to make that request. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. We have 4, I think, comments. First is my District E's next community engagement meeting is January 8th from 6 to 7:30 at Laurel Hills Community Center. We will be participating in the city's budget listening session, and I encourage District E to attend and ask questions. Last year, we only had 5 people attend this event, so I really am hoping to beat that number this year. So I encourage everyone, whether or not you're part of District E, you're more than welcome to join us at Laurel Hills from 6 to 7:30 tomorrow night. The next alert that I'd like to make mention of is District E is starting a book club. We're going to be calling it Decoding Democracy with Councilor Jones. And our first meeting will be held at Oberlin Regional Library on Saturday, January 25th from 9:30 to 11:30. So if you'd like to come and join me in conversation, we'll be focusing on UNC School of Government's book session, and we'll be talking about community advisory committees. So please come out and join us. My next is a question for staff. Can we do an update, maybe in a manager's report, on the 5-point streetscape study? I understand that it is not funded, but there were some milestones that I think we just want to check on that we were missing in the fall of last year. I just want to get an update to the community. And then lastly, I want to give a big shout out to the invasive species department for working with residents in Fallon Park for their scheduled removal in December. It was a partnership between the residents in the community who wanted to pay for more intensive invasive species removal and the city. You guys did a phenomenal job, really quick turnaround on making sure that the residents were able to provide that donation to the city. So thank you for that. I am interested in learning more about how we incorporate ongoing maintenance specifically for invasive species and funding in our programs, in our parks. So I don't know if that's more of a one-on-one conversation with parks or if that can be incorporated also into a manager's update, but whichever is fine with me. I'm just looking to learn a little bit more. So thank you so much.
First of all, Happy New Year to everyone. Couple things. One, the ice rink, I heard is going great, a lot of great sessions. But this coming weekend, they're going to have a special sensory-friendly ice rink session this weekend. So please, you have any children or any adults, having sensory issues and things of that, sensory challenges, it will be sensory-friendly this coming weekend. So definitely want to highlight that. I want to give a special shout out, thank you to our transportation department and working with NCDOT for the work on getting the Rock Quarry Road widening project open before Christmas. Thank you all. That project caused a lot of angst over the years, but we were finally able to get it complete. I know all work is not fully complete, but I definitely want to thank you for the work there. And just to the residents that traverse Rock Quarry Road, I know there's more work coming at Barwell and Pearl coming up in the next year or so as far as realignment and road widening. So that is still part of our transportation bond work that we are moving forward. So I just want to highlight that because I know that was a very hot topic over the last 6 months. So I just want to highlight and thank staff for that. And I look forward to everyone celebrating a nice, peaceful MLK weekend. Please go out, reach out, volunteer, and we will see you the day after here at our city council meeting.
Great. Yeah, I just want to say Happy New Year. First night Raleigh was spectacular. I think folks came from all over. Huge turnout, a lot of fun. Shout out to the Paper Hand Puppet Parade group that allowed Councilmember Patton and Mayor Cowell and several of our friends to get to lead that parade down the street. It was a lot of fun. I will invite everyone who's available on Saturday, January 18th. That is our District D Neighborhood Alliance meeting. It will be, as usual, at 9:30 a.m. at the Crowder Center at Lake Johnson.
Great. So that completes those reports, and we will move on to appointments.
Good afternoon. First, we have the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, one regular vacancy. Michael Dunn received 4 votes, and Sean Fernandez received 4 votes. So as given, none of the nominees received 5 votes. This will be carried over to your next ballot. Environmental Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy. Councilmember Harrison nominated Robert Bennett. So this will be coming back to your next ballot. Fair Housing Hearing Board, this is for the regular vacancy. DeQuanta Copeland received 5 votes, Tori Dixon 1, Damian Gu 2. So DeQuanta Copeland is appointed to this slot. Next is Fair Housing Hearing Board, 1 regular vacancy for the tenant-specific slot. Daniel Lamar Grant King received 4 votes and Kelsey Richard 2. So this will be carried over to your next ballot for consideration. Hispanic and Immigrant Affairs Board, 1 alternate vacancy for the professional member category. Councilmembers Patton and Jones both nominated Anna Rios, so that would be added to your next ballot for consideration. And lastly, under appointments, Human Relations Commission, 1 alternate vacancy. Dr. Mary Ellen Kelly received 2 votes, and Dr. Corbin Smith received 5. However, Councilmember Fort did nominate Alicia Taylor, so it is at council's discretion as to how you guys would like to proceed as far as appointing the individual that received 5 votes or carrying it over to next time with the additional nominee.
The person who received 5 probably should just get it.
And Mayor, I was going to point out, I think under nominations, we have 2, we're going to have 2 additional vacancies. So I think the alternate person's about to get pulled up, and we're going to be making nominations for 2 more vacancies anyway. So it seems like everyone's going to get a chance to serve.
Great.
Okay. Foreshadowing there, yep. We have some under nominations 4 additional vacancies that are upcoming or current newly I can't think of what I'm saying right now, but we have 4 that are new. So first, we have the term of Gabriela Magallanes is expiring. Staff has unfortunately not been able to receive a response from her regarding her reappointment desire. However, she does have fairly good attendance. It's included in the agenda packet. Next is Dr. Reverend Portia Rochelle. Term is also expiring. She would like to be considered for reappointment. We do have a resignation from member Judy Tardif. And then lastly, the term of Mary Thompson is expiring. However, she does not wish to be considered for reappointment. Per city code, she would continue to serve until replaced. And I have a note here, depending on what we did with the last item, which we appointed an alternate, you do have one brand new alternate member, and then you also have an existing alternate member, Kyle Compton, who was just appointed right before the holidays, that is available for elevation and consistent with council's past practice. Typically, the longest alternate would be elevated. So a few different options here for you all to consider.
I move to reappoint Dr. Rochelle.
Second.
Okay, should we take a full vote on that? Any other discussion on Dr. Rochelle? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
And then I move to elevate the longest serving alternate to one of the clear vacancies.
And I have probably the easiest, and you guys can do whatever you would like. The true vacancy right now would be the resignation of Judy Tardif. So that way, if we elevate and replace that slot first, that way at least all the seats are filled. And so then that would leave the reappointment of Gabriela Magallanes and the replacement of Mary Thompson.
But with us just approving Dr. Smith, wouldn't he move up into, even though we add him as the alternate,
right?
He would move up as to fill, because the alternate spot would be filled.
Right.
So that would cover Mary as well as Judy.
How about move to elevate both alternates to fill the 2 vacancies for Judy Tardif and Mary Thompson?
Yeah, second.
All right, any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed. Okay, so that motion passes.
And then the other, Gabriella,
Hold it until
I think we could hold it until we find out whether she wants to serve or not. But we'll have at least 2 vacancies for nominations on our next ballot.
Yep.
Yes.
Do you want to go ahead and make your nomination?
You'll have the alternates and
Well,
you know,
holding.
yeah.
So I will go ahead and move my nominee, Alicia Taylor, for one of the alternate spots.
Do you want to vote on it now or ballot?
It's up to y'all if you want to vote it now or do the ballot. Doesn't matter.
I'm fine. Second it then.
She did. She's got an application on file.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. No further conversation. All in favor of that motion, aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
All right. I will do the math and determine after this what exactly I need to bring back. All right. So next is Police Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy. This is for the victim advocate slot. You have a term. Mallory Rogers is expiring. She would like to be considered for reappointment, consistent with council's previous request to provide for the member eligible for elevation or reappointment that has missed more than 25% meetings. I provided that via email. Typically, that would be attached to the agenda packet. It included some more sensitive information, so that's why we attached it to an email this time.
Move to reappoint.
Okay, any further discussion? Not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Right.
Next, we have Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority, 1 regular vacancy. The term of one of the city members, one of the 2 city members, Nina Schlossberg-Landis, is expiring. She would like to be considered for reappointment. Given this board is a little bit different, I did include some additional information on the authority in the agenda packet.
Move to approve.
Second. Any other discussion on Nina Schlossberg-Landis? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
And lastly, Stormwater Management Advisory Commission, 1 regular vacancy. Term of existing member Samantha Kropp is expiring, and she would like to be considered for reappointment.
Move for approval.
Second. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of Samantha Kropp being reappointed, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Right.
Thank you.
And we thank all of these citizens who volunteer on these boards and advisories and spend their time helping make Raleigh a better place. Okay, so next we have the report and recommendation of the city attorney.
And we have no report today.
Okay, thank you. And the report and recommendation of the city clerk.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. 2 items today. First, we have reports from the Durham County Board of Elections and the Wake County Board of Elections, the abstract of votes from the November elections. This is just provided for information only. No action is necessary by the council. And second item, we have minutes from the December 3rd meeting for consideration of approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion of the minutes? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Right. Thank you. All right, next we have a closed session, and I have a motion is in order to enter into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with the city attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and General Statute 143-318.11A9 to discuss and take action regarding plans to protect public safety as it relates to existing or potential terrorist activity, and to receive briefings by staff members, legal counsel, law enforcement, or emergency service officials concerning actions taken or to be taken to respond to such an activity. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so the council is going into closed session. Thank you. Do I need to wrap the gavel? have just returned from closed session where the council provided direction to staff on the items listed in the closed session motion. Council will reconvene at 7 p.m.